Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning into News 9 Live. That's the topic that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of minutes. Take a look at those pictures, can you? People trying to help each other out, wading through knee-deep water. All of that is happening. Welcome to our thought-provoking discussion on the dying lakes and drowning cities. I'm your host, Kabir Naqvi, and today we unravel the distressing truth behind vanishing lakes and their catastrophic effects on urban areas. We've seen the viral videos from last year. Buses turning into hover ships and cars into motorboats. People having to wade through knee-deep water, uprooted trees, traffic snarls, dilapidated buildings, cities coming to a standstill, and life completely thrown out of gear. Let's not forget the tragic accidents and the lives these deluges have claimed, all because human greed, real estate pressures, and development against the cries of Mother Nature have taken over, and leaving nothing but public apathy year after year on display. Prepare to uncover the consequences of this encroachment, human greed, and the lack of proper sewage treatment. We'll dive into the indispensable role that water bodies themselves play in averting these floods, mitigating these floods, and investigate the impact of rapid concretization. Why are our cherished lakes disappearing across cities? Get down in the comment sections below, folks, as we explore the answers and engage in a compelling conversation about this urgent environmental crisis. Joining us on the broadcast is Nivedita Khandekar, Senior Associate Editor for News9 Plus, and we're also going to be joined by Manu Bhatnagar, who's the Principal Director of Natural Heritage Division for Intact. But before we embark on this enlightening journey together, Nivedita, my colleague here, has produced a sublime piece of short documentary on our dying lakes and drowning cities. It's on the News9 Plus application. I'll talk more about the application and other cutting-edge documentaries that are available for you to witness out there. Before we expand this discussion, take a look at that snippet, get to understand what we're really talking about, what we're trying to put forth for the viewers out there, and we'll come back for more.
बारिश और बाढ़ का कहर जारी है।
आफत, आसमानी, जिंदगी पानी पानी।
Remember these videos that went viral?
बेंगलुरु के सरजापुरा एरिया में पूरा फ्लड का सिचुएशन निर्माण हो चुका है।
लगातार बारिश हो रही है। जम्मू श्रीनगर नेशनल हाईवे बंद कर दिया गया है।
They are the result of human greed.
This is every rainy season we are facing this problem.
These things happen every year. Government is just sitting idle and doing nothing.
In the place of water body, there is a building which is being constructed.
Well, the buildings were constructed on the lakes. Naturally, the building has to go under the water.
Last 3 or 4 decades, nearly 4,000 water bodies have vanished from the map of Kolkata.
बड़ी खबर बता दें आपको, कर्नाटक के बेंगलुरु में बारिश का कहर, अंडरपास पे कार डूबने से महिला की मौत की खबर मिल रही है।
1 hour of rain wreaked havoc in different parts of Karnataka. Bengaluru saw heavy water logging and chaos, resulting in the death of 2 people, including a 22-year-old Infosys employee. A total of 50mm rain led to 7 deaths across Karnataka. Cars piled up, neck-deep water, trees uprooted, buildings collapsed. The pre-monsoon showers were a grim reminder of what the city witnessed last year.
बेंगलुरु से आ रही इन तस्वीरों को देखकर लोग ये सवाल पूछ रहे हैं। सवाल ये है कि देश की आईटी सिटी कहे जाने वाले शहर की ये हालत कैसे हुई? एक्सपर्ट्स का कहना है कि बेंगलुरु के ज्यादातर उन इलाकों में पानी भरा जहां कभी नदियां बहती, झीलें थी, तालाब थे, लेकिन बीते कुछ सालों में नदियों के प्राकृतिक बहाव वाले इलाकों में भारी निर्माण कर दिया गया।
बेंगलुरु बेहाल था और अब हैदराबाद में भी हाहाकार मचा हुआ है।
ఇది కృష్ణా గోదావరి వరదతో జరిగిన బీభత్సం కాదు, హైదరాబాద్లో నిన్న రాత్రి కురిసిన వర్ష ప్రభావం.
Our cities are growing faster than we can imagine. And in this race of urbanization, we are encroaching everything that is coming in its path.
The city of 715 square kilometers way back in 70s had the 68% green cover, about 8% was under the buildings. And today if you look at 85% is under buildings, concretized, and the less than 3% are the greens and the open spaces.
It's not just the connecting rivulets or the connecting channels that have got destroyed and encroached, but the lakes themselves have become now urban property and they have huge structures on them. So both these things, it becomes in some sense what people call, I hate to use that expression, a double whammy.
Lakes act as sponges to absorb excess rainfall. They act as buffers that collect rainfall and divert it into the soil to replenish deepened groundwater levels. If our lakes vanish, water will find its way to inundate homes. A study by the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, in 2016 pointed out that 98% of lakes have been encroached and 92% have untreated sewage and industrial waste.
See, when the lake receives the sewage and the industrial effluent, and apart from that people dump the solid waste in the lake, the storage capacity of the lake get decreased. And even the Rajakalves or stormwater drains, which are the conduit for transporting the water, have been encroached either by the buildings or by the dumping of solid waste. So these are the hindrances that is creating or aggravating the situation of the flooding in Bangalore.
These water bodies are disappearing right in front of our eyes.
It used to be a good lake 30 years ago. Over the last 15-16 years, the actual degradation of this lake happened. We are looking for some good solution on STP, which can be provided to us either by state government or by Archaeological Survey of India.
Well, now the Principal Director for Natural Heritage Division in TAC, Manu Bhatnagar, is with us on the broadcast. Mr. Bhatnagar, you know, there's a very famous saying by Bruce Lee. It says, you know, be like water. You know, you put water in any container and it takes the shape of that container. One should be like water. But if there is no container to put this water in, the water is certainly going to flow out. How does encroachment and human greed here exacerbate the vulnerability of the cities that are leading into these deluges and flooding? Are these the long-term effects of prioritizing concretization and urban development over the cries of Mother Nature, or is there more that we will have to face and suffer?
Well, see, there has been an explosion in urban expansion in the last couple of decades or more. Since 1991, when we had this liberalization, thereafter you would notice and observe that land prices have shot up like anything. And real estate values are perhaps all that matter. Now, in India, some of the states are already 50% urban. And we already have 53 million plus cities. And this number is only going to grow. We have not had our 2021 census. Otherwise, our number of settlements, which were 8,000 in 2011, this would probably go up to 10,000. So urbanization is something which is bound to happen. But the nature of urbanization is what really matters. In the past few years, driven by real estate concerns and commercial interests, any land has been targeted, and particularly land which is underwater. Now, land which is underwater has no value to real estate. But the moment it is filled up, it acquires an immense value in crores. Okay. Therefore, low-lying lands underwater, these are, gradually being filled up and converted into real estate. When that happens, obviously, as you said, where will water go? Apart from just the low-lying areas vanishing, a whole lot of concretization of pavements, both within premises and in the public areas, has taken place. So water does not stay where it falls. It cannot be contained because the containers are not there. It cannot percolate into the soil because you have stopped the passage into the soil. So if water has nowhere to go, you have to face it. And then we are in an era where extreme rainfall events are taking place.
Absolutely.
The rainfall which used to spread over an entire season now the events take place in few days, and even in those few days, they are concentrated in few hours.
Absolutely, Mr. Bhatnagar, because I'm done with opening these debate shows and these discussion shows with the question, why is this happening? Why are we talking about this year on year? We are talking about this year on year, and with the recent pre-monsoon, it is spelling doom already. Take a look at what's happening in Bengaluru. We've already lost a 22-year-old Infosys techie and several other deaths that have happened in this pre-monsoon showers. Now, elaborate a little for the benefit of the viewers, Mr. Bhatnagar. How does excessive paving and concretization and urban properties coming up in place of water bodies, how is this affecting the natural water cycle? But more importantly, how is this contributing to the flooding that we're seeing? I mean, the city completely comes to a standstill. And let's not talk about just Bengaluru. It's Assam, it's Hyderabad, there are places in Jammu and Kashmir as well.
Delhi.
What's really happening in Delhi as well?
You see, if you look at the cities earlier, they respected the topography, right? You will see, for example, the old parts of the cities or the cantonments, the civil lines, they are all built on higher zones. Whenever this flooding happens, you don't hear problems taking place over there. But it's really in the new expansion that you find that these urban flooding problems are taking place. Why? Because the topography has not been respected. If you come in the way of water, then you have to face it. So the right places to build have to be addressed, rather than, you build indiscriminately because you want to be in proximity to a certain area. Therefore, if a low-lying area is close to that premium area, well, so it acquires a value and you start building over there. But if you don't respect the topography, then you have got to face the problem. So that is one part. The other part is that you are sealing the ground. When you concretize in, vast areas, you see acres and acres, kilometers and kilometers of concretization. Today, you find there are fewer gardens, fewer soft areas through which the water can percolate to the aquifer. If the water cannot percolate to the aquifer, then it will lie on the surface, right? If it's lying on the surface, then it's bound to cause flooding, it's going to cause losses, it's going to cause damages.
All right. Well, Nivedita, again, I must congratulate you on a very well done documentary. But at the same time, you must have spoken to the real stakeholders on the ground, and we were just showcasing that particular graphic. I mean, you can see how, Karnataka is essentially green, but it suddenly, year after year, suddenly starts turning red. Red denoting the urbanization that has happened over there. You've spoken to some stakeholders. Are there some pragmatic solutions at play over here? In the face of this distressing situation, we're seeing floods every monsoon. The prices of certain vegetables go up, again throwing household budgets out of order as well. What are some pragmatic solutions that are really on the card?
Well, keeping the vegetables out of the debate. Why? Because this is more to do with restricting the human
I just
greed.
wanted to bring in certain factors, just to tell the viewers that it is actually a problematic situation.
Yeah. No, there is no debate about whether it is a problem or not. It is a problem. How and why we don't understand that increasing concretization and urbanization is adding to our own detriment. Why? Because the policy makers, even when they know, they don't take action to stop that process. For instance, the map that we are talking about from Bengaluru, where the open spaces lessen and whatever we can see. So the build-up area in red increases. So that particular thing is applicable to all metros. Delhi has the same problem, Hyderabad, and all these places were once known for lots and lots of lakes and water bodies.
Absolutely.
Delhi had once more than 1,000 water bodies. Unfortunately, today we are left with only 600 odd, that too. On paper 600, the government has agreed. Actually, if you look on ground, the condition is really pathetic. Sensitization needs on two counts. One, of course, the government, the authorities, the agencies that carry out, so to say, development of that water body. Why? Because so-called development, I would say. Why? Because for them, getting a paved path, getting some concrete structure in the very catchment of the lake is very important. Hundreds of environmental activists keep protesting, leave it like that. we can have a natural trail there, but not all people agree to it. That is one part. Second part is, even the common citizen are not that much aware. They also think the natural trail would be muddy when it's raining. Why not have a concrete trail? So these are very simple examples, and those translate later into mature greed. People cut colonies right up to the lake bed. I mean, in Delhi also we have those examples in Nazafgarh Jheel, and in across Bangalore and everywhere we have similar examples where either the government itself plans infrastructure project across these water bodies, or the people's greed does not stop them from building their houses right inside the lake bed. We have Bangalore's example from the Bengaluru. This was one of the posh colonies, and it went 8 to 10 feet down water last year.
In the documentary as well, there's a group of people who've opened up their own sort of a association. It's called MASAPS. I'm forgetting the name of that
MAPSAS.
thing. MAPSAS. These are people of the same locality that have come together. They say we're going to collect money and start taking care of the lake and its surroundings by our own self. We've got Pankaj in our chat box. He's asking a question, and I'll take this to Mr. Bhatnagar. Sir, if you would be kind enough to answer this. He says, what is the techie diaspora and what can they do in terms of improving the situation? Should they protest, collect funds and give it to the BBMP for their own locality?
I'm afraid neither will help. There are plenty of activists already in Bengaluru who are talking a lot of sense. It is that the powers that be must, listen to the common sense recommendations which these activists are giving. And these, of course, pertain to our long-term future, to our sustainability, to our security, and not just the flooding, also the availability of water resources in the lean season. Remember that, say, water logging is really the converse of water harvesting. You have that water and you want to throw it out, or you want to let that water seep in. But the real problem is coming from the water which will lie on the surface because it cannot exit in a hurry. Okay, so now where does the techie come into that? Maybe they could develop, computer models which show which areas are getting more flooded, why are they getting more flooded, and so on. But I don't see anything, which the activists have not already suggested.
And at the same time, sir, looking at it from a city planner's point of view, what are some of the major challenges? Because let's understand, let's not put all the blame on these planners as well. I'm sure it's a difficult task to cut out, a new planned out city where in place you already have something that's existing beforehand. What are some of the challenges in this balancing act of urban development and sustainable development?
As I said earlier, respect for the topography is primary. Okay, because water takes the path of least resistance, it flows from the higher area to the lower area. Now, these are, very simple matters to understand. And if you want to escape the flooding aspect, then you have to, not build in the low-lying areas. In fact, the, National Sustainable Habitats Mission, they have given you very clearly where you should build, where you should not build. There is, under the National Disaster Management Council, you have, injunctions, 11 injunctions on urban flooding, and quite a few of them deal with, please don't build in low-lying areas. Okay, so that it's as simple as that. But the point is that do people in power listen to the planners? I am myself a planner, and I'm seeing that gradually the inputs of planners are less and less, listened to, and more it's the commercial interests, the monetary side of the decision, the criteria, monetary criteria, the commercial criteria, which is dominant. So if we don't have a balance between planners' concerns and the commercial concerns, then I'm sure I can assure you that we'll continue heading in the direction.
So how do we promote this collaboration between government bodies, between various stakeholders and the planners? I mean, what's missing? What kind of reformation is needed?
A tough question there. I think they need to communicate more with each other and give due respect to planners' concerns. Okay. It should not be that the commercial interests should be dominant. I'm telling you that in the case of the Najafgarh Jheel, which is on the north side of Gurugram, which is known as the Millennium City, okay, planners have been overruled, and buildings have come up in low-lying zones of the Najafgarh Jheel, where their basements are flooded, not just in the monsoon or in intense rainfall even, but round the year. Okay, and yet they've got away with it. Now, this is basically commerce overruling planning and environmental concerns. So there must be a balance, and I think unless we have that balance, which can only come through regular, interaction and giving due respect to professionals. Unfortunately, I'm seeing that planners' voices are being quelled.
Well, Nivedita, would you like to echo or resonate on what Mr. Bhatnagar here is talking about?
Yes, I would want to add to the other side of what he's saying, pertaining to one of our viewers' question, what he as an individual can do, or people in their individual capacity. There are two things definitely that people can do. One, who are living in some housing society or even in their individual houses, they must ensure that there is at least one small patch of land that is open. There's a tendency in lot of people, lot of housing societies, lot of individual houses where they concretize their structure. The whole courtyard is concretized because they need parking, place for keeping it
Gardens
cleaner.
have gone out of fashion basically.
Basically, yeah. So at least one thing that they can do is to ensure a small patch of open land in their neighborhood. Second, giving with the same example that he is saying, lot of people move to bigger cities, they first stay in rented houses and then they as early as possible go for a flat of their own, apartment of their or whatever. What one needs to be very careful is first find out which area that flat, that apartment building is built on. And then that slowly awareness will spread. Okay, look, this builder has encroached on one lake, which used to be a lake. We need not go there because as Manuji has rightly pointed out, the housing societies right next to Najafgarh Jheel are regularly witnessing that flooding round the year. So we definitely don't want our well-earned money going down the drain. So individual capacity, there's a lot of things we can do. These are the two main things if we start doing. People be just more aware of where to build, what to build, and then ensure going ahead.
That's actually a good point because literacy now comes into play over here as well.
Awareness
and
by
literacy.
media, by government. Government does not do that kind of awareness because government itself is a interested party in building over lakes at many places.
Mr. Bhatnagar, over to you. You want to add something?
Yes, please. For those who know or are aware of it, you will see, say in the city of Delhi, look at Shahjahanabad, the walled city, look at the cantonment, look at civil lines, look at Lutyens, Delhi. You never hear of waterlogging and urban flooding problems over here because these places were placed and located with respect to the topography. But as the city expanded, then every area became open game and low-lying areas such as East Delhi and so on, where the drainages, they are almost at the level of the river itself. So the water does not move off easily. And the same story is repeated in so many other cities. I am seeing the villages around Delhi. These are also built on small hillocks so that the peripheral ponds receive the runoff water from the built area of the village. The built area of the village, the central point is about 5 to 6 meters higher than the pond level. So the water always drains off. A simple, logic for planners. If this is respected, then in the city expansions, I think we would be able to avoid urban flooding.
All right. And, we were just playing out those visuals from last year when between July and September, what all we saw in the southern belt where, rain did spell a lot of doom. Do you think, and this question is actually for Nivedita and Mr. Bhatnagar both. I'll come to you first, Nivedita. Do you think we're going to see a repeat of what we saw last year? Usually we end up seeing a repeat year after year. The BBMP, no elections have happened over there. what's really happening on the ground. If you look at just Bengaluru, if you put Bengaluru in focus, do you think it's going to be the same July to September like last year?
Definitely yes, and unfortunately answer would be yes for other cities as well. And unfortunately reasons are the same. The cities are losing their lakes, cities are concretizing high time, and a major contributing factor now we need to be more wary of in years to come is because of the climate change. The earlier schedule of rain where we had almost rain spread over 4 months, now we are having some particular days of rains, and those days are the extreme rainfall days. So the capacity of the roads and the areas
to withstand that kind of downpour has gone down.
We just don't have the. Had the lakes been there, they would have acted as sponges and absorbed extra water.
Climate change, what do you do about climate change, Mr. Bhatnagar, is a totally different debate altogether. But I mean, you know, we've made a couple of points clear. We now know that encroachment is there is human greed, there is capitalist reflex, and we dirty our ponds, lakes and surroundings, etc. And at the same time, there is urbanization that's happening, concretization that's happening. But the positives of these water bodies themselves mitigating flooding is also out there. You know, they act as carbon sinks also. They help replenish the groundwater level as well. But when you look at the factors that are helping in destroying and making our lakes disappear, there is the encroachment factor, and then there is the sewage treatment factor. And I know both of these are hand to hand. But if one were to, really weigh them on the Libra scale, which do you think is a bigger factor? Is it encroachment or is it lack of sewage treatment?
Well, if we are talking about flooding, then of course it is, the capture of these water bodies, the encroachment factor as you call it, but it's not just encroachment, it is sometimes the total capture of the water bodies and their disappearance from the map. Okay. So as I said, if the water doesn't have any place to go to, then it will, trouble you. So that is the problem. The encroachment and capture of the water body is the more, positive problem when it comes to flooding. Pollution is of course a problem, but that's a separate matter.
All right. Well, it seems like it has been a riveting conversation. What has come out of this? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. Some things that are clear, why it is happening, what can be done to fix this situation. On the other hand, it's not just a Bengaluru phenomenon, it's happening all across the country, various places that it's happening.
As we rightly pointed out in our documentary, there are ample examples of people coming together to save lakes also.
Right.
So there's a scope for contributing yourself for the city.
Umeed par to duniya kaayam hai hi. We'll have to hope that good sense prevails. A lot of positives over here. And ladies and gentlemen, before you buy your next house, before you buy your next flat, what Nivedita was talking about as well. If you see a swanky looking building, it's got a pool, it's got a clubhouse as well. Really understand where that building has been built. Understand what that structure is going to do to the ecology nearby. And the bottom line remains, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bhatnagar as well. There is no room for taking pangas with Mother Nature, is it? Absolutely none, absolutely zero. Sustainable development, we teach our kids about it, but we seldom do practice it ourselves. We must really, put from the page, take it to the stage as well. That's a thought for you to consume and ponder upon. Many thanks, Mr. Manu Bhatnagar, who's the Principal Director for Natural Heritage Division for INTAC, and Nivedita. It's a killer documentary. I'm again going to urge all people out there to download the News9 Plus application. It's the world's first OTT news application, and it's not just about environment. It's got politics, sports, you name it, and we've got it. You download the application, it's in, you've got other incisive analysis and cutting-edge documentaries on there. That's all the time I have for you right now. This is Kabir Naqvi signing off with Nivedita with me in the studio. But we leave you with a glimpse of that documentary again, just so that you can watch it once again, understand what we were talking about, understand that this problem is actually very real. Take a look. Thank you so much for watching.
बारिश और बाढ़ का कहर जारी है।
आफत आसमानी, जिंदगी पानी पानी।
Remember these videos that went viral?
बेंगलुरु के सरजापुरा एरिया में पूरा फ्लड का सिचुएशन निर्माण हो चुका है।
लगातार बारिश हो रही है। जम्मू श्रीनगर नेशनल हाईवे बंद कर दिया गया है।
They are the result of human greed.
This is every rainy season we are facing this problem.
These things happen every year. Government is just sitting idle and doing nothing.
In the place of water body, there is a building which is being constructed.
Well, the buildings were constructed on the lakes. Naturally, the building has to go under the water.
Last 3 or 4 decades, nearly 4,000 water bodies have vanished from the map of Kolkata.
बड़ी खबर बता दें आपको, कर्नाटक के बेंगलुरु में बारिश का कहर, अंडरपास पे कार डूबने से महिला की मौत की खबर मिल रही है।
1 hour of rain wreaked havoc in different parts of Karnataka. Bengaluru saw heavy waterlogging and chaos, resulting in the death of 2 people, including a 22-year-old Infosys employee. A total of 50 mm rain led to 7 deaths across Karnataka. Cars piled up, neck-deep water, trees uprooted, buildings collapsed. The pre-monsoon showers were a grim reminder of what the city witnessed last year.
बेंगलुरु से आ रही इन तस्वीरों को देखकर लोग ये सवाल पूछ रहे हैं। सवाल ये है कि देश के आईटी सिटी कहे जाने वाले शहर की ये हालत कैसे हुई। एक्सपर्ट्स का कहना है कि बेंगलुरु के ज्यादातर उन इलाकों में पानी भरा जहां कभी नदियां बहती, झीलें थी, तालाब थे, लेकिन बीते कुछ सालों में नदियों के प्राकृतिक बहाव वाले इलाकों में भारी निर्माण कर दिया गया।
बेंगलुरु बेहाल था और अब हैदराबाद में भी हाहाकार मचा हुआ है।
ఇది కృష్ణా గోదావరి వరదతో జరిగిన బీభత్సం కాదు, హైదరాబాద్లో నిన్న రాత్రి కురిసిన వర్ష ప్రభావం.
Our cities are growing faster than we can imagine, and in this race of urbanization, we are encroaching everything that is coming in its path.
The city of 715 square kilometers way back in 70s had the 68% green cover, about 8% was under the buildings. And today if you look at 85% is under buildings, concretized, and the less than 3% are the green and the open spaces.
It's not just the connecting rivulets or the connecting channels that have got destroyed and encroached, but the lakes themselves have become now urban property and they have huge structures on them. So both these things, it becomes in some sense what people call, I hate to use that expression, a double whammy.
Lakes act as sponges to absorb excess rainfall. They act as buffers that collect rainfall and divert it into the soil to replenish deepened groundwater levels. If our lakes vanish, water will find its way to inundate homes. A study by the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, in 2016 pointed out that 98% of lakes have been encroached and 92% have untreated sewage and industrial waste.
See, when the lake receives the sewage and the industrial effluent, and apart from that people dump the solid waste in the lake, the storage capacity of the lake get decreased. And even the Raja Kalves or stormwater drains, which are the conduit for transporting the water, have been encroached either by the buildings or by the dumping of solid waste. So these are the hindrances that is creating or aggravating the situation of the flooding in Bangalore.
These water bodies are disappearing right in front of our eyes.
It used to be a good lake 30 years ago. Over the last 15-16 years, the actual degradation of this lake happened. We are looking for some good solution on STP, which can be provided to us either by state government or by Archaeological Survey of India.